Hello everyone, welcome back to the Smart Stage. I am joined by Mahogany Jones, the founder at Event Specialists. Mahogany is going to be sharing 5 steps to revalidate your event to maximize your ROI. Mahogany, welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, I think this is going to be a really interesting session. So I'm going to hand over to you now. The floor is yours. Looking forward to watching your presentation.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Welcome everyone to the 5 steps to revalidate your event to maximize your ROI. I'm going to challenge you today to rethink how we're producing our hybrid events and even our virtual events. And we're going to look at ways to maximize what we're doing and what we're planning on doing. It's no longer enough to host an event just for the sake of doing so. If the pandemic has taught us anything, it has taught us that even when the events are mandated by associations or something that we've always done, it doesn't have to be that way. Now, the objectives for today's session, while it will be a super quick one, is to really understand when it is time to revalidate our events, understand the steps it takes to validate our events, and then also identify a few tools to validate them, and then maximize our ROI. Now, we often hear the term validation when it comes to business and event technology, but how do we validate our events? And why should we even care? If you want access to the slides that are being posted today, don't go ahead and take that link below and you'll be able to access those. Now, event validation is the act of verifying that the event produces the intended results. Is your event profitable? Does it serve the correct purpose? Do your attendees actually want to attend your event? Or are they there because they have to, or they just need those CE credits? As event planners, we don't always know how much weight an event holds as part of the association budgets. Is your salary directly tied to the budget of your event? Now, I like to lead with knowledge is power. And I feel like we as planners need to arm ourselves with as much knowledge as possible when it comes to our events, to our roles, and what we're putting out there. Now, is your event profitable? And I say profitable loosely because maybe profit for you is 10%. Maybe it's profitable if you break even. Maybe it's profitable if you increase money over last year. Have a look at what profitability looks like for you. Does it serve the correct purpose? Do your attendees actually want to attend the event you're producing? Do you know how much your weight holds, like we said, of your organization's budget? And why should we even care? So with the rise of so many competing events, and audiences are able to choose events based on promised experiences and or by what catches their eye. Something they see on the internet or something that a friend has shared. Maybe that event is more of interest. It is important to be able to articulate the value and the purpose of our events, especially when it comes to justifying the spend. How many have had to deal with the loss of their event or even the increased demand to produce more virtual events? We can do more. It takes less time. It takes less budget, or it takes more budget. But with the rise of these expectations, how can we actually measure a true ROI? And like I said, audiences are choosing events based on promised experiences and what catches their eye. It's not always what actually is delivered. I mean, my biggest example for this is when you have a look at your survey results after an event. Did they attend the event that you think they attended? Sometimes their content that they're sharing isn't always what you're thinking. So here we go, 5 steps to revalidate our events. Now I say revalidate because we as planners, we're often tasked with planning events that are mandated. And now we have a chance to really reimagine what these events are designed for. We're able to revalidate whether or not they are meant to be part of our business strategies. Number 1, you want to benchmark the event. And I say benchmark because we want to arm ourselves with as much knowledge and data that we can. Now, how can you prepare yourself for the future if you don't know how far you've come? And that begins with the benchmark that you could use. We heard BC, before COVID. You can benchmark based on 2020. You can benchmark based on before. But have a look at where you were to decide where you want to go. For events that have been happening, what kind of things should you be looking for? For new events, what kind of things are you hearing or seeing in the industry as we head into the hybrid era? And what could we look for? How many of you use the event survey results to adjust the delivery of your next event? We've all been there. You want to type in the chat that you say the surveys are a waste of your time? Go ahead. If we also know that the surveys give us valuable data to help us reimagine our events, that is also okay too. And that is where we should be headed. Are your participants happy to attend? Are you seeing an increase or decrease in attendance? How is the engagement level before, during, or after your event? And did attendance increase when you went virtual? Have a look at those numbers and see whether or not it's worth reviewing. And one of the tools that I really like to recommend for step one is the SSK method. The SSK method can be applied to a lot of situations. Guilty of using it in almost every event strategy session. I like to start with the question of, what would you like us to start doing at our events? What would you like us to stop doing at our events? Are you sick of virtual bingo? And what would you like us to keep doing? Do you like those 10-minute quick talks? Do you like those 20-minute action-packed sessions? What would you like us to keep doing? Now, event validation does not check the accuracy of the data. And as the event landscape changes and the use of words like this immersive, experiential, interactive, engaging, we're reminded of this statement. We often get feedback from attendees who describe events, like I said before, that they never actually attended, but they heard about. And it's something that they were expecting, even though it was not something you shared with them. Now, how many buzzwords can we use to describe our meetings and events? I always say this is a really fun exercise. You'd love to put it in the chat. Let's see these buzzwords in action. Which words are actually relevant to your event? Do you need it to be engaging and immersive in all of the words that we like to use? How can we verify that our events are functioning as intended? And this brings us to step two. And in my opinion, a critical piece of being able to both validate your event and articulate its purpose. Define your goals and objectives. This is where we begin to set ourselves up for success. I believe in leading with what you want to be able to maximize your outcome. What are your expectations as producer? What are you expecting from this event? Again, set yourself up for success. So what is your goal? So how can you justify the spend of we are having the event just to have one? And this is where we begin to build the framework based on research. Once you identify your goal, it will give everyone a focus when developing the correct event message and the correct calls to action. What is the goal of your event? Is it to generate leads and sales? Is it to increase brand awareness? Is it to grow? And I'll even say protect your membership as we start to see that change? Is it to increase customer retention? Increase social media following? What about entering a new market? COVID has allowed us to enter so many different verticals and bring so many different verticals together. And has that been available to you? And are you simply there to support your industry? Now, to estimate your total return, you need to define your metric of success. Again, I said you. We, the planners, we, the producers, are the ones who own these benchmarks and this data. So clearly defined goals and objectives help keep you on track and on target throughout the event planning process. They also help you to avoid wasting resources, since every decision involving time and money for your event can be related back to your guiding objectives. And I would like to repeat that. Every decision involving time and money, time planning, resources, staffing, all of those things, time and money for your event. And we do that before we even decide the technology and the tools that we're going to use to maximize our event. And I have to ask this question, and the pandemic has allowed us to ask this question even more and in a blatant way. Is an event the best or most appropriate way to achieve your goals versus other targeted communications or opportunities? We're seeing the rise of community building. We're seeing the rise of campaigns geared towards education that are not done in a traditional sense. We're also seeing the rise of no more 5-day conferences because we felt like we had to fill 5 days of content. We're really looking at what is the best and most appropriate way to achieve our goals. And a tool we like to use for this is, again, something that's tried and true, is the SMART goal methodology. And the event goals should be SMART. They should be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. And hold your team accountable to it. Hold them accountable that these metrics and goals are identified. And here's an example. If your goal is to generate sales leads, what are the associated metrics with that? Number of qualified leads, cost per qualified leads. We all know that that's what we're doing here at Event Tech Live. A lot of our exhibitors, that is their goals, and those are the associated metrics. And gathering new prospects. And what are those metrics again that you're going to measure? Number of prospects gathered, cost per new prospect, and then also number of new accounts added to your CRM. Number 3, we are flying through. Articulate the mission of your event. Now you've done the research, you identified your goal, and now it's time to articulate your purpose. And this is where your planning and messaging comes in. And it's where they come together. Does your event have a mission statement? I would love to hear. I totally have to admit, I put the phone too far from me so I can't see the audience comments that are happening right now. But I'd love to hear in the chat, does your event actually have a mission statement? That is always a fun one. And what is an event mission statement? And it's a written declaration of an event's core purpose and focus that normally remains unchanged over time. Properly crafted mission statements serve as filters to separate what is important from what is not. That guiding principle. Clearly state which markets will be served and how, and then also communicate a sense of intended direction. I mean, that's the Business Dictionary's definition. But I want to remind you that a mission is different from a vision, in that a mission is the cause and the vision is the effect. A mission is something to be accomplished. A purpose is whereas vision is something to be pursued for that accomplishment. And what makes these good mission statements? There are no long-winded goals, no lofty strategies, and they aren't writing an essay. They're 100% about what they want their events to be. So why? Just like your goals, your event mission keeps you focused. It ensures consistency in all actions. It gives you a point of reference. Knowing your event mission statement can also limit that shiny object syndrome and choosing elements that are not reflective of what you set out to do. Choosing speakers for notoriety will not help your event if they're not aligned with your event's mission. Sure, we would like to have the big names at our events and having them stays, but if having them strays from your vision, it's a waste of your time and energy. And same can be applied for your venues and your platforms that you're choosing. If you're looking for a creative or collaborative location, choosing a small space and setting everyone up in theater style or in a way that you cannot easily connect with each other goes against your mission. Choosing a platform that doesn't allow for networking or for you to see each other's profiles, all of those things start to come into play. Make those decisions together with your organization. Step 4, define the intended outcomes. Again, we're setting ourselves up for success. And I like us to always be able to lead with what we're looking for. What are the intended outcomes? Who is it all for? Who are we producing this event for? And we need to plan our events with our attendees and guests rather than to or for our attendees. If we remember Pokemon Go or these other strategies and different trends that we saw pop up, who are we planning this event for? And we want to be reminded that we need to plan our events with our attendees and guests rather than to them. Whatever suits their corporate culture, whatever suits our attendees' needs, that is who we're planning for, that's who we design for. No need to follow the trends for the sake of doing so. As audience expectations begin to evolve, we can look at the experiences we are creating for them. Now, we told them why they should attend, but what will they get out of it? Step 4. Again, we're defining these outcomes. So what does success look like? Now we have attendee feedback. So will you measure success against their survey scores? Ask your attendees high-level questions, like if they are satisfied with your event and whether or not they plan on attending the event the following year. Will they plan on attending in person when we host a hybrid event? Are they planning on attending the next iteration of this event? Having outcomes will show a positive ROI because we will already know what to expect. And we'll know this from registration to on-site to survey feedback. We are going to set these expectations and we're going to define these expectations. And that can also be used in your event marketing. What are you planning on providing for the event? What is the intended outcome for the attendees so that they repeat on your survey results exactly what you set out to deliver? And then again, we're setting ourselves up for success. Now let's look at registration metrics. What does success look like for those? I mean, virtual events has allowed us, and all of the platform advances and the technology advances have allowed us to understand, mine, and present data in ways like never before. So we are able to get more information about our event. We're able to understand where they actually fall in the journey. When did they register? When did they press the buy button? Did they sign up for your event right after you announced it or later in your marketing campaign? And at what point in the marketing did they actually decide to register? And by tracking your attendee registrations, you'll be able to determine which messages and media were the most effective for your events. And now, even more than before, we need to hone in these messages to find out what is really bringing our audience together. Without that, the justification of spend and holding these events is also in jeopardy. It will just allow us to protect ourselves as to what we're doing. And it also allows us to reiterate and re-look at what we're trying to accomplish. Defining these outcomes in a sense, in a way that allows us to use the registration metrics in our benefit will be perfect for how we move forward with that event. If your registration numbers aren't helping you, or they're not supporting the event and you're seeing that we're not registering early in the process, we're not registering before early bird, all of those things are part that can fuel the strategy to continue to get your event to where you need it to be. And when we say revalidate, is it actually performing the way it's intended to perform? So if you're having a lack of registrations, do we need to beef up marketing? Are we sending email communications? Are we sending social communications? How are we reaching our audience? And are we doing it in a way that we've always done it? Can it be refreshed? Can we reimagine how we're promoting our events? And other metrics that we can look at would be things like, was your event cost effective? Did you generate leads? Did you acquire new members? And did you see an increase in customer renewals? Now, we told them why they should attend, but what will they get out of it? Having outcomes, again, will show a positive ROI because we already know what to expect. You're starting to see a trend. Now, how do we maximize the ROI? By adding so many metrics to measure, so many things, so little time. Now, we hear that attendees want experiences, but they also want customized experiences. And what is a customized experience? It is the rise of collaboration and co-creation. This is not new. This is not new to the industry. The pandemic has forced us to revisit the rise of collaboration and co-creation. We're seeing a rise in co-location events, industries coming together to produce an event with a common goal, supporting budgets from different industries and also maximizing revenue in different industries. And when possible, include your attendees in the production of your event. Allow them to share the experience, allow them to design content, allow them to create sessions dedicated to something of their interest when as much as possible. I'm not saying you can always do that for every event, but consider that an option. Now, including your audience in the planning takes guesswork out of many aspects of your event. Like I said, that virtual bingo, all of these virtual trends that we're following. Are you catering to a corporate culture of games, or are you catering to trends? Really think of what your audience is looking for. And if you don't know, ask them. I know we have to get creative in how we're asking, because everyone we all know the noise that we're seeing out there and the noise in the interwebs has just caused havoc for some industries and has been amazing for others. So really showcasing why they should attend your event, using that success and sharing what your audience actually wants to see and hear allows you to set yourself up for success. And then step 5, we're going to measure the ROI. Now, do you simply measure the money in versus the money out? Or do you take it one step further to measure increased brand awareness? What is the increased website traffic? Are your registration numbers going up, or are they staying the same? Like I said, we've seen many organizations whose numbers doubled and tripled now that they have global reach for their events. What does that look like for you? Now, in my opinion, there are 2 types of ROI. There's the ROI for the attendee, and then there's the ROI for the event. And work first to understand what it will cost, and that's time and money, to appeal to an ROI that is meaningful to your audience. And then you will assess if delivering on that ROI for your target actually aligns with delivering the ROI that you're looking for. If those are in alignment and they work together, then we are winning. But if they are not in alignment, the event will not be successful, and it may be time to revamp. True formula for ROI is revenue minus expenses divided by your expenses. If you spend $1 million and generate 1.2 million in revenue, you've achieved your 20% ROI. And if your goal to achieve, often we see a goal to achieve for brand awareness, a good ROI is 5%. Versus an ROI that could be 25% or even higher, especially if your annual event is tied to different line items in a budget. Now, setting SMART goals and challenging the purpose of your event will increase your ROI. It's a given. We're starting to set ourselves up for success. We are setting ourselves up for what we would like to see. Quick recap of these 5 steps. You want to define your event benchmarks. What are you measuring against? What worked in the past? Then you're going to define your goals and your objectives. What are you looking to accomplish? Define and articulate your purpose. What is the purpose of your event? And then define your outcomes and your metrics. And then finally, you're going to measure your ROI. If you're not seeing an ROI or you're not seeing the outcomes that you're expecting, then it is time to really reimagine what that event is. Hybrid meetings will not save a dead event. It will not save a meeting that people were already trending downwards in attending. Hybrid, just like virtual, does not save what is already broken. That is when it is time to revalidate and reimagine that event. Now, with all of these different steps, how do we keep it intact? How do we make it a reality? I like to recommend this tool, and it's a one-page business plan. And again, events are a business strategy. It's a marketing strategy. So let's have a look at it from a business standpoint and create a one-page business plan. Like your mission statement and your goals and objectives, it becomes law. If it does not fit within this space, it is not meant for the event. You want to use it to really hone your focus in and really make sure you weed out the noise. And I want to hear from you. Please don't hesitate to reach out on the Grip platform so that we can chat and connect and get to know each other. I'd love to hear what your best practices are and what you're seeing and some of the tips that you find helpful. And I feel we may have 2 minutes for questions if we have a couple.
Mahogany, great session, very inspiring. I just want to read a few of the comments in the chat out here. ROI in 5, maybe that's like a strap line you can have on a t-shirt or something like
Oh,
that.
I like that.
Knowledge, the key to success, smiley face. The power of peer-to-peer, and survey equals value. So some great engagement. It looks like you inspired some of the audience there, or at least have some cheerleaders at the very least. We
We'll
do have a
take that.
couple of questions. Absolutely. Well, we do have a couple of questions. I'm sure we've got enough time to get through them. The first question is, how much data is too much to gather, in your opinion?
I'll say that's a loaded question. And I only say that because I don't feel like you can have too much data. And I say that from a person who likes to be able to see trends. But truth be told, we as event planners can hold all of the data and have access to it and then make it a little bit more digestible for the audience who needs to actually see that data. I mean, how many, we'll say Forrester reports or different company reports, do we actually read all of it? When you start deciding what data is relevant, use what actually will move the needle in your event. Use data that protects the integrity of the event. Use the data that will actually support decision making versus the vanity metrics, I like to call them. I mean, registration numbers are great. It's a great target, but they're really kind of arbitrary. So
I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's one of those figures that everybody wants to know for whatever reason as a judgment of the event. But actually, thousands of attendees does not mean a better outcome or a better ROI, because ultimately people can't meet with thousands of people all in a short space of time. It's about the quality, right? And I think to your point, it's very easy to collect all the data, but not actually focus down on what actually matters to the business and the objectives of the event. So that's what I'm taking from that. Another comment here, great session, great session. Another question, how do you convince the key stakeholders to hone in on validation or validating, sorry, if that makes sense?
Again, I like to arm myself with data and arm myself with what you're going to use to protect yourself. One of the biggest strategies I've used, and it's coming back full circle, and that is convincing your C-suite why we need to go hybrid. I mean, I feel like we've been beating the hybrid drum since 2008, but to show why, use data and examples that support your position. There is always a conference that made the value that you're looking for, that had the attendance that you're looking for, that had a sponsorship strategy that you're looking for. Use that in your pitch to the C-suite, along with the data and the trends that you're seeing from what has happened year over year, event over event, and put yourself at that table.
Absolutely.
Own that seat
Facts
as
and
the strategist.
yep. Facts and data will overwin opinion every single time. Mahogany, thank you very much for coming on and doing such a detailed and insightful presentation. Clearly the audience loved it. For anybody watching, if you do want to meet up with Mahogany, please do through the platform, reach out to her. I know she made her slides available to you afterwards as well. Mahogany, once again, thank you for joining us, and to the attendees, we'll see you very shortly in the next session.
Thank you so much.